Poland claims to have just shot down 3, possibly 4 Russian drones flying over Polish airspace. If true, it would be the first time we know of that a NATO country has directly fired on Russia since its war on Ukraine began.
Poland's prime minister says the country is at its closest to an open conflict since World War II.
But why Poland? It's not exactly in Russia's way. It can already access Ukraine directly through more than 2,000 kilometers of border. That's almost 1,500 miles of access. So what happened here? And does this potentially open a new front in a war Vladimir Putin appears dead set on winning? Overnight, Ukraine claims to have shot down nearly 400 Russian attack drones, presumably over Ukrainian airspace. But Poland's prime minister says between the overnight hours of 11:30 p.m. and 6:30 a.m., 19 of those Russian drones breached his country's airspace. Fighter jets scrambled.
NATO allies scrambling F-35 and F-16 jets, the alliance's defensive protocols kicking in.
NATO refueling jets, we're told, as well as Dutch pilots, and also involved overnight in bringing down those drones were Italian surveillance jets.
An urgent alert was also sent out to Poland's territorial defense forces. You can think of them like the U.S. National Guard, but strictly for homeland defense. The message: be prepared for an immediate call-up within 6 hours in the entire eastern third of the country, closest to Russia. Since then, media and local police have reported finding drone components, possibly belonging to those Russian drones shot down or just crashed here, 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 and here. Now, it's important to note this isn't the first time Russian attacks have strayed into the sovereign airspace of other countries. When Russia attacks Western Ukraine, especially from the Black Sea, it's happened before where drones have strayed into Moldovan and Romanian airspace. Several times since the war began, both countries have had their airspace violated, and in some cases have had Russian debris fall onto their territory as well. Even Poland itself has suffered casualties. Less than 1 year into the war, a Ukrainian air defense missile went astray, killing 2 people. And just last month, a Russian drone crashed into a Polish cornfield. What's different this time, though, is that this is the first time NATO defenses have shot one of these drones down. And the scale of the incursion raises the question of whether this was an accident at all. Let's look at that map again. Between Russia and Poland is Belarus, a close Russian ally. Previous attacks on Ukraine have actually been staged directly from Belarus, and the two countries often hold joint military exercises involving thousands of troops, tanks, aircraft, live fire operations, even drills for the possible use of nuclear weapons. Belarus has claimed whatever Russian drones that may have entered Polish airspace did so through its airspace by mistake. Their navigation systems were jammed. They flew off course. But Poland and the NATO military alliance Poland belongs to, they say that can't possibly be true. The most important question right now is, what exactly did Russia intend to do? Its Ministry of Defense claims there was no intention to engage any targets on the territory of Poland. But Germany's defense minister says there is absolutely no reason to believe that this was a course correction error or anything of the sort. Because, well, how do 19 drones all go off course across such a wide swath of the country in the same 6 hours?
That likelihood is basically 0. 1, 2, 3, maybe 4, but 19, not at all likely. These were programmed to operate in coordination and to end up where they ended up. And so a handful of drones failing in this way is plausible, but 19 simply isn't.
And if this suspicion turns out to be true, that these drones were not simply thrown off course, but that they were actually set on this course into Polish airspace.
Russia gains a lot from testing the limits of what it can get away with in Europe. And we've seen with the escalation of the attacks on Ukraine, more and more things which are direct challenges to European and to British and to American interests. For example, targeting buildings belonging to the EU in Ukraine, targeting US-owned factories, the British Council, and now a direct challenge to a NATO member.
Put simply, each of these incursions tells Russia a little bit more about just how far it can push.
It also learns, of course, about Poland's capacity to respond to a challenge like this. We hear that there are 19 drones, of which 4 were shot down. That's not a particularly high success rate.
And that will be a primary concern of a much wider community.
Whether it was intentionally or not, it is absolutely reckless.
Right now, Poland has invoked Article 4 of the NATO treaty, which forces all countries to convene and discuss whenever a member's territorial integrity or security is under serious threat. Now, let's talk may not sound like such an extreme reaction, but Article 4 has only been invoked a small handful of times in the last 75 years, maybe 7, 8 times now, and it's seen as a precursor to invoking Article 5, which is the heart of NATO itself. This principle that an attack on one is an attack on all, requiring action from all members. Article 5 has only ever been invoked once. That was after September 11th.
A second plane now has crashed into the other tower of the World Trade Center. I think we have a terrorist act of proportions that we cannot begin to imagine at this juncture.
Russia's really learning how NATO decision-making works. And that is really important because it is our assessment that Russia's preparing for a long-term conventional conflict with NATO in the future. And understanding how NATO responds to Russian threats is really, really important in Russia's ability to basically edit and change its calculus vis-a-vis NATO.
I should point out, for all that Russia stands to gain from testing the limits of its aggression, Ukraine also sees this as an opportunity. Volodymyr Zelensky wrote on X, "It is clear that Russian aggression poses a danger to every independent nation in our region, and therefore only joint and coordinated action can guarantee reliable security." And both the European Union's top diplomat and its defense commissioner agree that some kind of border shield or drone wall along the entire EU eastern flank may be more urgently needed now than ever. So, provocation leads to military buildup, leads to what exactly? That's a doomsday possibility every country in the region will be seriously considering.